Welcome back to the Raw Prospect Podcast. My name is Amy Nixon. That is Michael Ween to my left. And today we are getting into a little bit more NFL talk like we do every single Wednesday. So if you're new here, if you like the NFL, you like what we do, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like the video. Like I said, we do this every week. We record twice a week on this channel, once with Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports, where we talk Texas football, Texas basketball, Texas baseball, really anything that has to do with sports on the 40 acres. We cover it. And then here, NFL talk. And then a little bit of NBA and MLB thrown in there too, just for good measure. But before we get into it, introduce my co-host, Michael Ween. How you doing, man?
It's October the 29th. It's a Wednesday. And by the time we're playing football on Sunday in what will be week 9 in the NFL, not only will we be like right at the halfway point of a 18-week season, but we're also at the point in the NFL season. And Emmy, you live in Austin, or at least in a part of Austin. I live in Austin. We don't have an NFL team here, but did you notice what the weather was today? A little chilly outside. There's a little breeze in the air.
Yeah.
We're starting to get to that time where next week we'll be 3 weeks away from Thanksgiving, and the weather starts to shift a little bit. It starts to get a little bit more chilly out. It's more football weather. It's more playoff weather. And so this is the time of the year that I really get excited for in the NFL, because now over this next month, we're really going to separate the real contenders from the real pretenders, if that makes sense, as the weather starts to change and you have to run the football more and you can't air it out as much in, really yucky conditions, which you might get here in the next couple of weeks in certain cities, especially the cold weather cities that get cold really fast. And it applies to college football too. Like November's the month where you typically see separation between the real contenders and the real pretenders. They are out there. They just haven't been exposed yet. Although my team may have been exposed on Sunday night. We'll get to that. So today we're discussing 4 teams from the NFL's middle class, and we're going to do something similar to what we did 2 or 3 weeks ago, to where we buy, sell, or hold stock in terms of that team's mid-season over-under win total, based on what we think of the team as currently constructed. We could also get into a conversation about whether or not each of these teams could be buying or selling at the trade deadline and whether or not that could change their over-under win total. And then on the back half of the show, we're going to be doing something new. It's a segment called Random Questions. One of Emmy's favorites and one of my new favorite NBA podcasts does it. We have 3 random questions that we'll answer at the end pertaining to like more big picture NFL conversations.
Right.
So I'm really excited. Let's go ahead and jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Starting with your team, you mentioned them, the Steelers. Had a rough night on Sunday Night Football in the, I guess, battle of Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, battle of the generations, I guess. Rough night for the Steelers. The defense really struggled, especially in the second half, lost control of that game. And the offense, really just, they couldn't respond back with how quickly the Packers were scoring. But where are you at with this team right now? The over under for them is at 8.5. And as we know, obviously with Mike Tomlin teams, they've never
not gotten there.
They've never not gotten to 500. So
yeah, it's interesting. So shout out to my guy Steelers DB on YouTube, who I think does a fantastic job with Steelers content. And Monday afternoon, Monday evening, he released a Steelers, like a 10, 12-minute Steelers defensive film room from the disaster that occurred, specifically more so in the second half on Sunday night against the Packers, where the Steelers actually controlled a lot of the first half. They took a 9-point lead into halftime, and you were feeling pretty good. Then things completely fell apart after halftime. They gave up about 300 yards of offense after halftime, and the Packers scored on all 5 drives I think they had in the second half, outside of their last one, which didn't really matter. They were basically, taking victory formation. So that's where the conversation really sits with me. To answer the question but going back to the point I was making, I watched the film room and I wanted to throw up all over myself watching it. To answer the question here, I said last week on our power ranking show that I wanted to wait over the course of the next 3 games with Pittsburgh. I wanted to wait to make my final verdict on what this team is going to be, and we're not off to a great start. That 3-game stretch was the Packers at home, the Colts at home, and then at the Chargers, which will be next week. Okay, 3 really good teams. If you were to ask me when they're healthy, we're not off to a great start. Right now, I'm holding my stock, but I'm ready to sell it here pretty soon if things don't improve on the defensive end. A couple things here. I'll try to be as short as possible. Number one, I'm giving Pittsburgh, based on what we saw the first third of the season, the benefit of the doubt against some of the lesser teams on their schedule. The way Mike Tomlin typically, and with some of his weaker Steelers teams that we've seen over the past couple of years, the way that they win 9-10 games every year is they beat up on bad quarterback play. They beat up on mediocre to lesser teams, the bottom of the league. And that typically gets them enough to either get into the playoffs. They might upset 1 or 2 teams, right? Play well as an underdog 1 or 2 weeks, and then they'll get to that 9-10 win mark and get in. So I'm right now the Steelers are at 4-3. I don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks where the schedule is really heating up, including this past week against the Packers. But I'm giving them benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's unearned benefit of the doubt with the way this defense is playing. But I'm giving them benefit of the doubt against Dylan Gabriel one more time. I'll give them benefit of the doubt against a team like the Bengals at home. I think they'll win that game at home. I'll give them benefit of the doubt on a Monday night where Mike Tomlin never loses against a bad Miami team at home. So right there, the 3 games that I can give the Steelers, I think, W's, as long as they, don't shit the bed, which isn't guaranteed, but Mike Tomlin has a pretty good history beating up on bad teams like that.
Yeah.
So that gets them to 7 wins. The question at hand right now is, can the defense – before the season, Mike Tomlin said this was going to be a historic defense. And I have to give him credit because he was right. It is a historic defense, just not in the right way. It's actually a historically bad defense instead of a historically good defense. Right now, the Steelers in total defense are 30th in the league. They're giving up a ton of yards for a lot of different reasons. And I'm not going to get into the schematics part of it, or else we'll be at 30 minutes before we even get to the next team. But they don't tackle well. They're pretty slow in the secondary. And the pass rush against elite quarterbacks isn't doing enough. And what teams have found out is if you can get the ball out, if your quarterback can get the ball out in less than 2.5 seconds, you mitigate their pass rush, you mitigate the Steelers' pass rush, which is the best part of their defense, and you can get run after catch on this team because they're not disciplined tackling and they're pretty slow in the secondary. They don't have a lot of real speed on this defense. They're kind of an older defense right now. They're also dealing with some injuries, and they don't communicate very well, and I don't think they're coached very well. So right now, they're 30th in total defense. If that lasts the rest of the season, that would be the worst, statistically, defense in Pittsburgh Steelers history. Wow. They are on pace to be the worst defense, not only under Mike Tomlin by a long shot, and the 2021 defense was the next worst, but they were 22nd in total defense. So we're like a long way off. They're not even to like close to average like that team was. They're bottom of the league in total defense. So like if you would have told me before the season that the offense would be the functional part of this team, because you cannot tell me that Aaron Rodgers isn't playing good enough to win football games. And you cannot tell me that this offense, which is averaging over 5 yards per play, isn't doing enough to win football games. Most weeks. The thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers that I would have never expected is this defense is not good. It's down there with the Ravens and Bengals. The thing that I'm holding hope onto is that for like 4 or 5 more weeks this season, they can be closer to average to above average defense, which they have been in certain weeks this year. And I'm holding out hope that they'll beat the bad teams on their schedule. And I'm holding out hope that based on what I've seen this division, I'm still not convinced that any of those other teams are significantly better than the Steelers. Maybe the Ravens with Lamar, but I still don't know that yet. We still have to see them back with Lamar.
Yeah.
And so the division's kind of weak relative to what maybe we thought it was going to be when we started the year. I think that Tomlin's a good motivator. I think he'll get enough out of them to probably get there. And I'm still holding out hope over these next 2 weeks to really give my final take. But I'm certainly not buying it right now. I'll hold on my position for like the next couple of weeks and see where we're at.
Yeah, I think they'll get the 9 wins. I think they will do it. To me, it just comes down to like they got to give up on this whole man coverage thing. They can't do it. They can't play man coverage. They don't have the guys for it. Darius Slay looks old to an extent. Jalen Ramsey looks kind of old. He's done okay in the slot, and I think to his credit, he's still a playmaker. He's still an opportunistic guy on your defense that you want to have on your defense. Like he'll force a fumble every once in a while. He'll make a play here or there. But I think overall, this secondary is just. I mean, how has Joey Porter been this year? I haven't heard much about him this year.
He's been okay. Nothing to like write home about. In comparison to Darius Slay, who I think it's his time to probably retire after this year, just doesn't have it much anymore. And that was like a 1-year kind of low risk, high reward signing by Pittsburgh. In the offseason, he was available and they just said, why not? He doesn't have the speed anymore. He can't keep up with even like teams numbers 2 and 3 wide receivers most times. The man coverage thing isn't working, but the thing is like when they do play good coverage, they can't tackle anybody. And one of the most frightening indictments that I saw on Twitter earlier today, which actually kind of made me laugh out loud, was if this was two-hand touch football, the Steelers would have one of the best defenses in NFL history. But it's tackle football.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's crazy. So what you're saying is their first contact is close enough to the line of scrimmage to where they would consistently get stops, essentially.
Yeah, they're getting hands on people. They're not bringing them
Getting them down. Yeah. Wow.
They're not bringing
that's crazy. That's crazy.
I can't remember who exactly tweeted it out, but I thought it was a great way to kind of sum it all up.
Wow. Yeah.
All right. Not where I thought I would be, but there's still a little bit of hope because I do think you can say that they're starting to run the ball better and more consistently. The offensive line's actually playing pretty well. They're exceeding my expectations. And Rodgers is efficient every single game. He's not really turning the ball over. He's like top 5 in the league in touchdowns. Like he's having a pretty good year for a 41-year-old quarterback. My position on the trade deadline with Pittsburgh is they're going to try to do whatever it takes to do whatever they can this year to compete. They're probably going to make a move for a wide receiver at the deadline. I don't know who that's going to be, to what level that receiver is, and to what level like of capital they're willing to give up. I'm not sure. But they're not going to sell. Like, they never sell. So they're going to do something at the deadline to try to help this team.
I think I'd rather them go for a corner, to be honest.
See, but
I still am pretty high on Roman Wilson. I don't know where you're at on it, but
I don't think trading for one player is going to change this defense. I think what you have to do if you're the Steelers is you're not going to have a great defense this year. What you have to hope is you can help your offense enough to where you can stay in games, and maybe that defense can make a couple plays every game to kind of swing games. That's what this team has done year after year. They're great at winning the turnover battle. They're opportunistic, and they kind of change games with one or two plays on defense. Now, I don't disagree with you. Like, if you want to use a day 3 pick to go get a corner that might be better than Darius Slay, sure. And look, the Steelers are going to have a lot of capital this year. The draft's in Pittsburgh, and they're going to have a lot of capital. I just don't want them giving up too much because I think they might need some of that to go to trade up and get a quarterback, if that makes sense.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll end with this. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers has been better than anyone could have hoped, and that throw he made, I want to say it was the second or third quarter where he rolled right and threw it like 40 yards down the field to Roman Wilson down the sideline. That was
first play of the game, I think it was.
Yeah, no, that was sick. That was Aaron Rodgers. Like that was
He has a couple of those moments every single game where you say, "Oh, that's Aaron Rodgers." Like, he's still got the arm.
He looks healthier.
He can still sling it. He can still move a little bit. It's not what he once was, or not even close to that, but he can still do it a little bit. And he's not putting the ball in harm's way for the most part. So, like, what he's done, and I'll end with this, is like he's made this offense smarter and more efficient than it was with like either of the last couple quarterbacks that they've had. Because just his football IQ is so high, and he just gets the ball out so quick. Yeah, I don't know. To answer your question on Roman Wilson, since I kind of was going on another tangent, I like that I know that he can actually play. Because prior to like the last couple of weeks, I didn't know that he was even on the team or that he even existed because he hadn't really played. He missed all of last year with an injury, and he hadn't really been able to crack the rotation when Calvin Austin is healthy. But the last couple of games, he's shown up and been a pretty reliable number 3. So if he can do that, maybe that lessens the need for a wide receiver. I'm not one of those guys who's willing to give up like a high pick for a receiver, but if you can get somebody like another solid body for maybe a 3rd round pick at the most, or a day 3 pick, I don't know necessarily who that would be. I don't think you're getting any of the top end guys, that are available with that kind of day 3 capital, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you do something like this, if you convince Amari Cooper to come out of retirement or something, and then trade for a corner, I think that could be something interesting for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Who's our next team?
Our next team is one I'm pretty excited about. It's the Houston Texans. They're probably the most interesting team that we're going to talk about tonight from a multitude of different standpoints. For one, last week was the best we've seen out of CJ Stroud this year, like by far. Like, we saw bits and pieces of it last year, but that was rookie year CJ Stroud. Like that's what it was. And they're getting their rookies more involved. Jalen Noel was really good that game. Like, when he gets targets, he's getting open, he's making plays. So this Texans team, it feels like their offense is starting to find some things, and CJ Stroud is starting to get into a groove. It's just whether or not this offensive line is going to play bad enough to ruin it. That's essentially all it is, because the defense is great. We know that they're going to hold teams to around 20 points or less. And like, everything else is just, can the O-line block? That's it.
What's their over-under?
Their over under is set at 7.5,
And
and they're currently 3-4. I want to say. Let me double check that.
I would buy that. I think I'm buying the Texans for a couple of reasons. Number one, 7.5 seems kind of low to me with this defense. In fact, the Texans are the first team in NFL history to have the league's best scoring defense and to have a losing record through 7 games.
Wow.
Like they're excellent defensively. Now they can be run on a little bit, but their pass defense is excellent. And overall defensively, the makeup of that defense under D'Amico Ryans is top 5 in football. So like I do think, and I haven't looked necessarily at their schedule, but you absolutely love one side of the ball with this team. I do think CJ Stroud, like you've seen it this year, he looked really good last week. And you do have the weapons when they're all healthy. To me, it just all comes down to will the run game operate efficiently enough? Because they've had some injuries, and can this offensive line block well enough in pass protection to keep CJ Stroud upright enough to where he can make plays? When you give CJ Stroud time, he can pick you apart. And that's when this Texans offense can really operate at a really nice level. They went out and they beat I think a playoff caliber 49ers team. And they beat them pretty soundly on Sunday. So 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure what I would have said about Houston, but they're kind of getting themselves together here at the right time. I'd have to look at their schedule, but I think I'm going to buy that. I think they're poised to go on a little bit of a run here.
Yeah, the schedule is where this conversation is interesting. So this week, I think we're going to learn a lot about this Texans team in that game because that's one of the best pass rushes in football. And if they play this team and they still are like dysfunctional and like not able to function offensively because of their O-line, then that's really going to change how we view them. But they also have to play the Colts twice. They also go at Kansas City. They have a 3-week stretch where they play at home versus Buffalo, at Indy, and then at Kansas City. So it's not a super easy schedule, but with that being said, I mean it's at 7.5, and they play Tennessee again. They'll hopefully split with Jacksonville in their game, and then they have Vegas and Arizona, 2 games that I think they should win. And then if they steal maybe like a game against the Chargers or something like that, this team still could challenge for the playoffs.
And the thing I think you feel most confident in with Houston is they're going to play some pretty explosive offenses, as you mentioned. Some of the best quarterbacks in this conference, the AFC. They don't give up anything really in the passing game. Against deep passes, which Next Gen Stats defines as passes that travel 20 or more yards in the air, they're allowing the lowest completion percentage in the league at 19%. Teams are barely completing like a fifth of those passes against Houston. That's elite of the elite. They have 0 touchdowns given up on those throws. That's the fewest in the league. And the passer rating just cracks me up. Opposing offenses throwing the ball 20 plus air yards against Houston so far this year. Quarterbacks have a 17 passer rating. Lowest in the league. So like they're the one thing I don't know if they're going to be able to like function enough offensively and if the line's going to hold up and everything else. The one thing I do know is for the most part, as long as they're healthy, they're not going to give up. They're not going to give up much either, which is going to keep them in some of these games and allow them the opportunity to potentially pull a couple upsets. I'm not necessarily buying them as like a team that can even win a playoff game yet, but 7.5, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think so too. It's tough, but I think I will. I could see them stealing a tough game somewhere in there because they have the defense to where they can stay in football games. So I feel pretty good about where this team is at, and especially since they've been running the ball a little bit better these last few weeks. So I think that'll be it for the Texans. Now moving along to our next team, we've got the Chicago Bears. So the Bears right now, their over under is sitting at 8.5. So for them, they're sitting at 4-3. I think it is. They have been a bit up and down, and I guess last week was a bit of a low point in terms of how Caleb looked in that game. But I think if you were to ask most Bears fans, I think the up and down nature of his game is probably was to be expected. But I think it's been more so positive than negative. He's shown off a lot of his talent, a lot more so than he did last year. Like he's been able to have Ben Johnson design an offense that showcases his abilities a lot more. So they're going to be able to put up points in certain weeks. It just feels like they're a little bit matchup. They're a little bit matchup based right now in terms of the defense that they're playing. And I know Baltimore hasn't been a good defense this year, but that Baltimore defense coming off of the bye week isn't the Baltimore defense that we've been seeing this season. Like they were healthier. They looked like they were stopping the run, and that's really been the thing. Like if you stop the run against the Bears, you get them into third and longs. Caleb's going to start holding onto the football and seeing ghosts, and all of a sudden they're going to be turning the ball over and making big mistakes. So I don't really. I think if I were to make a pick on that over under, I'd probably lean towards the under.
So with the Bears this year, you have a team that is up and down, not just week to week, but quarter to quarter to quarter, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If you look at their point differential by quarter, they're one of the best first quarter teams in the league. They're starting fast, which I think is a good sign for the overall structure of that offense and the confidence I think Bears fans should have in Ben Johnson for the future. What you want to see out of a brilliant offensive coach like Ben Johnson is offenses that don't struggle early in games, because then like their game plan, they've game planned very well. They're ready to play. They're prepared, and they're able to like get up and get out to maybe like an advantageous lead against some of these teams. So I do like that, but in every other quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter specifically, where it's the worst, they have a negative point differential. They're plus 22 in the first quarter, but then in the second quarter, they're minus 12, third quarter, they're minus 13, and fourth quarter, they're minus 14. So it's not like anything super drastic. They're still competitive every week. I think the question here is, does Caleb Williams give you enough week to week? Can he avoid some of the more of those Ravens performances and give you more of like some of these other performances that we've seen this year? Because I do like this roster. I think the defense has been pretty solid. I think they have the pieces to get to 9 wins. I'd probably cap their ceiling though at like right around 9-10 wins, because the division is extremely difficult. And to be clear, I don't specifically know like how many division games they've played and how many they have left. I know they played the Vikings once, I believe. Can't remember if they've faced anyone else.
They play
that division.
Pittsburgh, played Green Bay twice.
Yeah.
The year.
I don't know. I'm kind of in between on the Bears. What is it? 8.5? I think if it was 7.5, I would probably buy. Right now, I'm holding to slightly selling though. There's something about them quarter to quarter with the inconsistency of Williams sometimes in this offense and some of the inaccuracies from the quarterback standpoint. I'm just not super sold on the Bears, but I think if you told a Bears fan, in fact, one of my best friends from college is a Bears fan. If you told a Bears fan you're going to be 4-3 with this new coach, and Caleb Williams was going to show a lot of the positives that he's shown so far this year, some of the improvements that he's made from last year, you would feel maybe not really good about what this team can do, but really good about the next couple years in the progression under Ben Johnson. So right now, I'm slightly selling on the Bears, but that doesn't mean like I don't believe in the overall trajectory of Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson in the structure of this roster.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna sell, and it's for a couple reasons. The defense, um, they have led the league in turnovers up to this point, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm not giving them credit for that because that is impressive. But I do think that's bound to regress to the mean a little bit, and we already saw a little bit of that this week with their defense giving up 30 to a Tyler Huntley led Ravens offense.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance for regression from their defense, and with the schedule they have, if you look at it, I I don't know if Cincinnati's a great matchup for them. That's a really high powered offense. Obviously, their offense will put up points too, but and then they have New York Giants, who are a frisky team. At the very least, that'll be a fun game for two young quarterbacks. Um, Minnesota at Minnesota, that's always a tough divisional game for them. And then Pittsburgh, where they've been tormented by Aaron Rodgers for decades. It feels like so.
That's true.
I mean, their schedule, it's not the hardest on paper, but they have games that I could see them losing um, if their defense does end up regressing.
The one thing I think Ben Johnson has done a good job of is he's just kind of like eliminated the disgusting with this team from last
Yeah,
year. Like they're not losing their focus on defense and giving up like Hail Marys and explosive plays. Like they're just not doing a lot of the stupid stuff that they did last year, which cost them actually a couple games in the win-loss column, like legitimately. So um, I'm confident in them in like moving on into the future, probably more so than I was coming into the season. But for this season, I don't know if they'll get to 9, so
yeah.
I'll sell as well.
Okay. Moving on to our last team, the Carolina Panthers. We can go a little bit quicker on this one, honestly. They're sitting at 4-4, and honestly, if you told a Panthers fan before the season that they'd be 4-4 heading into Week 9, I mean, that's a dream, right? Like, I mean, you've seen the positive stuff from Bryce Young. Tetero McMillan looks great. The defense has taken a step forward, seemingly. Um, but it's been weird because in their bad weeks they absolutely suck and they get blown out. But in their weeks where they win, they look like a really solid team that has a bright future. So it's a bit of a weird feeling with them because it feels like they're still not all the way there yet in terms of being like an actual playoff contender. So to me, with them sitting at let's see, it's at 7.5. I think I lean towards selling. To me, this feels like more of a 6-win football team. To me,
I'm a little higher than you. I think they can get to 7 or 8. I'd probably still sell though. I don't know what their schedule is.
yeah. Let me pull it up.
Um, you pull that up and you can rattle off some of the games that they have. I think as long as Bryce Young in the key players on this offense is healthy, I think they're going to have weeks. I do think that Dave Canales has done a really good job so far this year with this team and with Bryce Young over dating back to like the last quarter of last year where we saw some positives with him. Ted McMillan has 37 catches this year, and 31 of those have gone for first downs. So like he's not just getting high volume and targets, but he's making those receptions count, moving the chains. And the defense has taken a slight step up from where it was last year, but it was not a high bar to clear. So I do think go ahead and do you have their schedule pulled up? Go ahead and rattle off some of their remaining games
Yeah.
so I can get a feel for that.
Yeah, so they stay New Orleans twice. First, they're going to go against them on the road that time, but Atlanta doesn't have the greatest home field advantage anyway. And then they also go at San Francisco and play the Rams in back-to-back weeks, and they still have to play Tampa Bay twice as well. So to close the year, they play Tampa Bay, Seattle, and then at Tampa Bay back-to-back-to-back. But yeah, I just I think for me, it just feels a little bit more like those 3 wins in a row that they got. If you look at it, they played Miami, Dallas, and the New York Jets in those 3 games. And while I want to give Bryce Young credit and give Dave Canales credit, like obviously, like you got to go take care of business in those games. But those are also 3 of the worst defenses in football. So I got to see them do it against, or I got to see them put up points against better defenses before I buy on them. Reaching 7 wins.
Yeah, I think they'll probably. I think they're definitely at least splitting with New Orleans. At Atlanta is not going to be easy, but this is also an Atlanta team that just got blown out by Miami at home. So, like, I don't know. The question is, like, can they go into San Francisco and beat them later on in the season? Can they beat one of these teams? Can they beat the Bucks once? Can they upset the Bucks once? I feel like they'll probably get to 7, but 7.5. I think they've exceeded expectations. 7. I don't think they'll get to 8 though. That feels a little much still.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see them getting to 7 for sure. I think that's probably their ceiling though, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I mean, for honestly, like this Panthers team, they have a bright future for sure. Like I think with how this year's draft went for them, like if you look at it down the list of their draft class, they've gotten conscience from every single draft, like Tech McMillan, Nick Scorton, Prince Umanyalan, Trevor Etienne, even Mitchell Evans, a tight end out of Notre Dame. They've gotten great stuff from him. Jimmy Horn in the 6th round. Like they really nailed that draft.
Yeah, it's true. All right. That's it. So we've got basically 3 sells in a buy. Is that what we ultimately did? Or 1 hold, 2 sells in the buy, I think is what I did.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't really keep track, honestly. I just kind of was just going with the flow. But yeah, on to the second segment of the night. We've come up with 3 random questions to kind of encapsulate kind of big picture stuff within the NFL. First one being a really fun one, I think. Top 3 trade candidates and top destinations for those candidates. So this will be, I mean, I didn't prep for this segment. So for me personally, I'm going to be kind of spitballing. But Michael, if you want to start first, if you have some names prepared, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of this question in the context of like how likely do I think they're actually going to get? How likely do I think it is they're actually going to get traded?
Yeah.
It would not surprise me if a team, because all these teams with superstar edge rushers, for example, say they're not going to trade like their edge rusher, and then a team comes in with a monster package that they can't turn down. So, like for example, a Trey Hendrickson for Cincinnati. I'm kind of in between on that. First of all, I don't know that Cincinnati wants to trade him. And I don't know if that's a smart decision, or we can go back and forth on that. But like, I don't know that they want to trade him. And if you look at the landscape of their division, even though they blew a golden opportunity on Sunday, even though I don't trust their defense at all, and like there are flaws to this team, you look at the landscape of the division, and they're not quite out of it yet in their division. They can make an argument to themselves and say, well, like we're 3-5. We Flacco's made our offense at least competent. We're scoring a lot of points. We have the weapons necessary to win some games. If our defense can just like play average or play close to that, and they have Hendrickson healthy, like maybe we can make a run down the stretch, and then Burrow comes back, and maybe we can be in the thick of things for the division. Because right now, it looks like 9 or 10 wins could win this division right now. And so I think the Bengals can like make an argument to themselves. No, we'll keep Hendrickson. Maybe it's not the smartest thing in the world, but we're going to try to do something with this team. So I say all that to say I don't know. I don't have Hendrickson like high on my list, even though he's one of the better players. He would probably be the best player to get traded if he got traded, unless like a Max Crosby were to get involved here. A couple names that I'll throw out there. The Jets aren't going anywhere this year. So I think you look at I think there are some running back needy teams out there. I think Kansas City could use a running back. I don't know how reliable Pacheco and Hunt are. Maybe they would look for something like that. I think the Chargers maybe could use another guy in their running back room with Hampton's injury issues and Najee Harris going down for the season, even though that Vidal guy has done pretty well for them lately. I do think there are some running back needy teams, like on potential playoff teams, that if Breece Hall came available, I could see him being a trade candidate. And on the other side of the ball, would they potentially look to trade a guy like Keenan Williams? I don't know. I think Hall's probably more likely, but we'll see. I'd throw Breece Hall into the mix. I also think he's probably more likely to get traded as a running back than what's the guy's name? Alvin Kamara would be
Yeah.
another guy in New Orleans. So I throw Breece Hall up there. I do think that Jacoby Myers is going to get moved at the deadline. In terms of like destinations or wide receiver needy teams, maybe you look at like for example, Buffalo would probably use another weapon in their
Yeah.
room. If Pittsburgh's going to make a run at this thing, I don't know what draft capital it's going to cost, but they could use a guy like that for certain. There are some wide receiver needy teams that Seattle as well could definitely fit into that conversation. And I also think that he's probably more likely to get traded than maybe an Olave or Rashid Shaheed in New
Yeah.
Orleans. So I'd throw Breece Hall out there. I'd throw Jacoby Myers into the mix. And I think one or both of the Dolphins pass rushers are going to get moved.
Yes.
At the
That's
deadline.
where I was going to go with it. I think Chubb and Phillips will both be on the table, and possibly what's his name? Zach Sealer, I think his name is in the interior. He could possibly get moved as well.
You look at a
I
team
think the
like
Dolphins will be sellers at the
you look at
deadline
a
for
team
sure.
like I don't know, like San Francisco. Maybe could make a play for a pass rusher, or
I
who
would
are some
love for
other
Washington to make a move.
potentially? Yeah. Um, so yeah, like those two guys would be high up on my list. Um, I do think a running back like a Breece Hall could potentially get moved. Jacoby Myers, I definitely think is getting moved somewhere. Because that Raiders team just isn't good enough to do much this year. Probably worse than I expected them to be. Who else? Do you have any other names you'd like to throw out into the mix?
Um, Not really off the top of my head. No. I read an article earlier this week, even though this would never happen, not after signing that contract, but I read an article on the Athletic, basically saying that Miles Garrett is unhappy, which is the most predictable thing of all time. Honestly, he said all this stuff about wanting to win a Super Bowl, and then gets offered $40 million, and then signs it, even though the Browns aren't going to win a Super Bowl. And here we are. He's unhappy again. It ends up with a 5-sack game where it didn't mean anything. He's not going to get traded, but I mean, I still just would love to see him not in Cleveland. Like I would just love to see him escape there, but I just don't. I don't know if it'll ever happen at this point.
What would the well, I'm not going to take us off course because we need to move on. But like, what would the package have to be to get a guy like, I'm not even talking Myles Garrett, but like at the deadline, what does the package look like for Trey Hendrickson, for example? What do you think what would you give up for Trey Hendrickson?
I mean, it would be a hell of a lot more than what we got from Michael Parsons. That's for sure. I think in a deadline situation where, like there's more leverage involved for the team that's trading the player because they know that the other team is desperate to get that guy in and help them make their run. So definitely, I think Hendrickson would be 2 first-round picks. Maybe a first and a second, given he's 31. But I mean, he's had insane production, so I could see it being maybe like a first, a second, and like a late round swap.
Yeah, I can see that too, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, when's the deadline's on Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that?
Yeah, it's coming up really soon. I think it's either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
But yeah, that's going to do it for that first question. Here's the second question. How would you rank year 2 QBs on amount of stock you'd buy in them for the future? So, I guess ranking year 2 QBs futures, and that includes Caleb Williams, of course, who went number 1, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix.
Yeah, looking back on it, a really good quarterback class.
Yeah, real good.
Right now, I'm not going to rank them. I don't, but I will tell you the quarterbacks I'm highest on and the quarterbacks I'm lowest on. From a like, I think it's fair to say we don't know enough about McCarthy at all. Probably be near the bottom of the list right now. For me, out of this class, it's hard not to be like super buying in on Drake May right now. Hell, I might even talk about him in our next segment, potentially. It feels like he's made the biggest second year leap out of these quarterbacks. And I think he's benefited greatly from Mike Vrabel, the structure, that stabilizing presence, a proven offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels, who's been one of the best play callers in the league this year. And we've seen Drake May take a lot of steps. His ability to escape pressure, to scramble, to throw on the run, play with timing in a complex offense. He's like top 5 in the league in a lot of the key categories. So I'm buying full stock in this kid. I think he's an absolute gamer. He'd be near the top of my list. Um, the interesting conversation for me is Caleb Williams. Personally, I'm buying some stock, not full stock like I am Drake May, but I'm buying low on Caleb Williams under the structure of Ben Johnson. I like some of the improvements that I've seen. Bo Nix would probably be like kind of in the middle of my list. I think he's just rock solid, a top. On his best days, he can be a top 12 guy in the league, maybe even higher than that. Where does Jaden Daniels fit into this with you, with kind of the year that he's had?
I hate that he's getting injured so much because I still think he's number 1 for me on the list, but it's hard to not rank Drake May number 1 right now because it's the recency bias is so much that it's just because he's playing so freaking well. But I still think Jaden Daniels, his running ability to go along with kind of just I don't know, just his ability to make everyone around him better on the offensive side of the ball. Like I just think what he gives you in the run game, obviously, and obviously just the poise part of it, where he's just not really he's not turning the ball over, he's not making mistakes, he's insanely accurate. Um, I give Jaden Daniels the slight edge just because I want to see Drake May do it for a full year. But I mean, if Drake May continues like this, he will be number one for sure. I think if I had it right now, if we were to do it like I guess a NFL draft redraft, I guess, um, I would go Daniels 1, May 2, and then I think I would put Williams 3, but I that's tough because Bo Nix has been really good and he's been on the winning team.
Yeah, I'd probably go Daniels 1 because you're right. We've seen a bigger sample size with him, and he's like already been to the NFC Championship game and things of that nature. He's won playoff games, so he's been hurt a little this year, and that's unfortunate for him. But like, yes, and also like his dynamic ability in the run game. Put him 1. Give me Drake May 2. And if I'm gonna make the same argument that we just made for Daniels and that he has more
Yeah.
like proven experience, I think you have to put Bo Nix 3.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think I would probably switch it too.
And then Caleb Williams 4, and then Penix and McCarthy at the bottom.
Yeah, I kind of omit McCarthy at this point because he's only played 2 games, so it's hard to rank him.
Yep.
But in that second half against Chicago, I mean, it did look pretty good. So that at least gives Minnesota fans hope.
We're not counting those. Like, I like Penix. I think that Atlanta offense can be really good with him. But comparatively to like Knicks, May, and even a guy like Caleb Williams, I don't know that you put him up there yet. Especially since this is his first full year as a starter. And then McCarthy, nobody is ruling him out as a guy who couldn't be a good quarterback, like good franchise quarterback at this point, but we have no idea what that's going to turn into. Like, we saw 2 good quarters of football from him, and the rest was awful.
Pretty
So
bad, yeah.
we'll see. I think he's coming back this week. Is that right? Is that what I
Yeah,
heard?
I believe so. Because Wentz is out for the season now, so they don't have a backup anymore.
Yeah, they have some quarterback issues there in Minnesota, amongst other things. They're probably wishing they. Do you think they wish they had Darnold?
Hell yeah,
I
hell
think
yeah.
so.
I mean, I think if you give Darnold that same deal that Seattle gave him, I think you don't even blink because you think about it. I think that Darnold contract, I think it's a 3-year deal, and JJ McCarthy's like 21, 22 years old at this point. So even if Sam Darnold did play out that whole contract in Minnesota, JJ McCarthy would be 25 years old when it's done.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get into the last question because we still have to get into picks too. So we need like a
Right.
couple minutes for that as well.
Okay, yeah. Really quickly on this last one.
Plus,
Who is MVP of the league halfway through the season? And who will be MVP at the end of the season? So 2-part question here. I'll have you go first.
yeah, at the end of the year, I think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. But right now, I would give it to I'd give it to Drake May. First of all, his team is winning games. They're 6-2. They're first in their division. And it doesn't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon. Drake May's numbers are ridiculous. 75% completion percentage. So he's been efficient. For over 2,000 yards. He's on pace for almost like a 5,000-yard season. 15 touchdowns to 3 picks. That's a 5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio at 9 yards per attempt. And I just think that the jump that he's taken from promising to elite for the first half of this season is a sight to behold. Now, the parts around him haven't always been perfect, which I think adds to his argument. They're 21st in pass block win rate. They haven't run the football effectively, consistently. 28th in EPA per carry. But MAYE's been absolutely like transcendent. He's leading his division right now. He's winning games. He's putting up the numbers. He's done a little bit of everything for this Patriots team. He's second in the league in passer rating, only behind Lamar Jackson, who's only played like 3 or 4 games. And what really stands out about him is that he's made the offense both efficient and explosive at times. He's 13 out of 17 on passes over 20 air yards this year, which is incredible. That's a blistering number for any QB. That would be blistering for Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. He's doing this while throwing to a receiver group that doesn't you wouldn't say like New England's receiving group is elite, would you? So like I think he's getting it done pretty much on all ends as a quarterback right now. They're winning games. They're first in their division. I don't think he's going to win the award at the end of the year, but Baker Mayfield's case has fallen off here just a tad the last couple weeks with some of his struggles recently, and things just almost completely falling apart at the seams, around him with all the injuries that they have. I still think he's top 5 in my ladder. He's somewhere in there, but he's not quite at the top. The one non-quarterback, though, that you have to put up there is Jonathan Taylor, who's virtually like unstoppable right now.
Yeah.
I think right now my vote for Offensive Player of the Year would be Jonathan Taylor. My mid-season vote for MVP would probably be Drake May, and my final vote for MVP will end up being Mahomes, just because I don't know if that Kansas City team loses another 2 games this year. I think they're going to probably finish in the race for the number 1 seed. They're going to win their division. And I don't know. I just feel like it's a little bit of a tougher division than the AFC East is. And Mahomes, like when he has his receivers healthy, he looks like the MVP again. So
Yeah.
That's an offense that looks like it's having fun again. It looks like the Chiefs of 2022. So, like, at the end of the day, it'll probably come down to Mahomes. But right now, I'd give some respect to Drake May.
Yeah, the easy pick for end of the season is definitely going to be Mahomes for sure. I don't even know if you told me Mahomes like ends up, struggling or like getting hurt for a couple weeks. Hopefully he doesn't. Not wishing that on anybody, but if he ends up like falling out of the race for whatever reason, I don't even know who my second pick would be. I guess it would be Drake May, but like it just feels like it's his award to lose. With the I guess how this team is kind of peaking in the second half of the year here. So I don't know. I think it's his award for sure. I probably agree with you on Drake May. Given that, I mean, the team is 6-2. They had he had an MVP moment in prime time against Josh Allen, outdueled him. So I mean, yeah, I mean it's Drake May right now. The guy that I'd probably shout out is Sam Darnold too, but he doesn't have the numbers that Drake May does. So,
what if though? What if Jonathan Taylor goes for what he's on pace to do, which is over 2,000 yards on the ground and over 25 touchdowns? And the Colts are how many games do you think the Colts are winning? What if they go like 13-4 or something like that? Could he be in the conversation? I think so. I don't know if a running back will win it, but like what he's doing cannot be understated. He's on pace for 30 touchdowns this year, which would be second most in NFL history behind LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006. And every week it seems like I think he's had 4 games already this year where he scored 3 or more touchdowns in the game. I don't think anybody's ever done that in NFL history. So, like, as good as Daniel Jones is playing, like, a big part of it is what they're doing in the run game, and that's Jonathan Taylor. So he would be my offensive player of the year right now. But yeah, Mahomes feels inevitable as long as he kind of stays healthy and goes from there.
Yeah, because Lamar's out of the race. Josh Allen's had a couple bad games, or not bad games, but less than Josh Allen like games in a row. So it just feels like Mahomes is the only guy left essentially, just with how bad like Herbert's offensive line has been. He's fallen off. Mahomes is the only guy left. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, now we'll get into our picks to close out the show real fast. We're sitting at the hour mark here. I still need to pick up. I need to pull up the lines for this week. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
But
So while you do that, let me update everyone on what happened last week. So, it was not a good week for either of us. We were funny enough. We were actually coming off 2 consecutive really good weeks where we both went a combined 3-1. Coming into this past week, you were 7-5. I was 6-6. This week though, we both went 0-2. That's where things stand. I think I made my potentially worst pick. What ended up being one of the worst picks that I think I've made on this podcast with the way that Atlanta game turned out. I trusted the Falcons, and they really let me down. Although at that time, I didn't necessarily know that it was going to be Kirk Cousins. I don't know if that would have changed my mind on that.
yeah,
But Falcons obviously did not win by 7.5. In fact, they lost by like 30. So that obviously didn't hit. And then I had Buccaneers Saints over 46.5, and that didn't get close. The final score was like 23-3 on that game. So like I that game just didn't have the amount of offense that I thought it would. So I was 0-2. And then for you, you had Giants plus 7.5, and they weren't quite able to stay in touch with Philadelphia. So I understood where you were coming from there, but that didn't hit. And then you had Bears Ravens over 49.5, which got a lot closer than my over-under pick did, but didn't quite hit. So yeah, we're coming off both 0-2 weeks, and we got a rebound this week. So and
yeah,
then
definitely.
you've had some time to look at the board. Does anything stand out to you?
Yeah. Oh gosh, this week is definitely a little bit tough. I look at maybe Minnesota and Detroit. Um, Detroit's favored by 8.5. That was pretty big to me, but it's also scary because Detroit can have one of those heaters on offense. And then the Niners are favored by 2.5 on the road against the Giants. Shanahan coming off a loss is usually a pretty good bet. I'm definitely thinking about that one. And then Bears
My first pick,
Bengals. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead with yours.
I'm going to fade my team this week. I want Pittsburgh to prove me wrong. And Indianapolis is not just beating teams; they're rolling teams by multiple scores. If you tell me Indianapolis beats Pittsburgh by 7 on Sunday, I'm not surprised at all. Especially if the Steelers defense can't get things fixed. I'm going to take the Colts minus 3.5, even though it's on the road. I just don't. I can't trust the Steelers right now, and I think if the Colts win the game, they're going to win the game by probably like a touchdown or 10 points or so. So I'll fade my team. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be happily wrong, but I'm going to take the most efficient and best offense in the league so far against one of the worst defenses in the league so far.
Yeah, fair. Okay. For me, I'm gonna go with Cincinnati. I might regret this, but they're 2-point dogs at home against Chicago, and I don't love Chicago's defense. In all honesty, Like I think, like I said early on in the podcast, that defense is like it might regress a little bit, and if that happens, all of a sudden you have a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins offense that has a quarterback that can distribute the ball to them. So you could see some pretty high scoring in that game. The over is 50.5, which is it seems about right, honestly. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals money line right there, 2.5 point dogs.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking for a good over under total that I like to pair with my Colts pick. Or maybe a spread that I like to pair with my Colts pick. Thing is, I've not been good betting spreads this year. So, how high scoring do you think that Cowboys Cardinals game is going to be Monday night?
Very high scoring.
Because I'm thinking
Very high scoring.
53.5's high, but I would think about the over there. Feels like a game where there's going to be points.
Yeah, keep in mind that Kyler Murray has never lost a game at AT&T Stadium before, ever. And it's looking like he's going to play this week.
It's a little risky, but I'm going to take – I'll take the over there. That feels like one team gets into the 30s potentially and the other's like in the 20s. I'll take over 53.5. It's a high total, but I'll take that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I'm looking at this Seattle versus Commanders game. The Commanders are desperate for a win. They're 3-5. Oh man, I kind of am. I'm looking at taking Seattle on that 3.5 point spread, but it's scary though because Daniels is looking like he's going to be back this week. And like I said, that team is really desperate for a win. Like if they lose, their season could be over. But man, I'm gonna take Seattle just because I think it's a tough matchup for Washington.
I agree.
Ultimately. So
what's the line on that?
3.5.
Okay.
3.5 point road favorites. So they got to win by more than a field goal. So,
but they can do that.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, so those are our week 9 picks. Hopefully, we'll have a lot better success this week than we did last week. Emmy's still 500. He's 7-7, and then I'm one game behind him at 6-8. So we've kind of been neck and neck the whole year, but we both want to finish this year over 500. I think that would be a good goal. So
yeah, this is a big week for us for sure.
Yep, big pivot.
We at least got to go 1-1 to remain within reach.
I'll give you a quick parting shot. Right now, as we record this, the Blue Jays are up 3-1 on the Dodgers through 6 innings. If they win tonight and they go up 3-2 after a bounce back win last night, and they go home to Toronto where they've been almost unbeatable this postseason, you could be looking at a Toronto Blue Jays World Series victory.
Yeah, very likely. Very, very likely.
Which I would not have predicted, but like they might be just like the team of destiny this year.
Yeah, it just shows you how important coaching is in baseball. They make a change as on a hitter's coach, seemingly not on a whim, but I mean they hired the right guy, and all of a sudden their offense just has exploded.
And it also shows how hard it is to go back to back.
Yeah,
the last team that went back to back was the late '90s Yankees. Other than that, no team has gone back to back. I think it was '99 and 2000 were the last teams to go back to back. So not in this century have we had a team go back to back. And the Dodgers are the first team in that time span as defending champions to get back to the World Series the next year. So
really?
Yep.
Wow. The Astros never did it?
Nope.
Wow, that's crazy. I did not realize that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So a lot of parity in baseball right now. Because we've seen all these teams like it's not necessarily like the teams with the most money aren't necessarily winning every year. So yeah, it's kind of fun. But to be honest with you, I like the baseball off season. I like the hot stove. Um, so I'm kind of excited for like a break there. But like right now, we've kind of got other than baseball kind of fading out into their off season, we kind of have like a sports equinox starting next week with the NBA, college football, and NFL basically every day if you kind of look at it that way, and college basketball coming back too. And then if you're a hockey fan, you have that as well. So it's like the best time of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Did we get the World Baseball Classic this year?
We do.
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So
I'm so excited for that.
Judge is captain for Team USA this year.
Ooh.
He didn't participate in the last World Baseball Classic. So we're going to have Judge. We're going to have Otani. We'll have all the big names in that World Baseball Classic.
Fuck yeah.
So that'll be
Hell
fun.
yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
in February, right after the footballs, a couple weeks after the Super Bowl is when that starts up.
Fuck yeah. That's a really smart time to do it for baseball. That's really smart.
Baseball is going to get the spotlight. It's between. You're kind of in the dog days of the NBA season at that point. You're starting to make the playoff push, but it's around the All-Star break. Like it's right after kind of the Super Bowl.
But yeah, and it's like before March Madness too.
It's between football ending and between March Madness, so they'll fit it in right there, and you'll get the spotlight on baseball going into the season.
Yeah,
that'll be fun
for sure. All right,
I want Team USA to have all the dudes. I want Bryce Harper on that team. I want Judge on that team. I want all the big time Americans. Mostly.
I want Paul Skeens pitching.
Yeah, I think he actually is.
Will he?
I think he actually might
Fuck
be.
Yeah.
So
hell yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, but those Japanese, man, they don't let up. Because
I think they're freaking insane.
I think they're gonna have probably Yamamoto, or they're gonna have Otani. So that's gonna be fun. Like if you don't watch baseball during the season, you'll want to watch that.
Yeah, I heard that the Japanese baseball league, they signed a deal to have their games shown in America now for the first time. So like I'm kind of curious.
And you know what else is in 2026? I know we're kind of ranting at this point. The World Cup. It's in the US, right? So
yeah, I've been saying I want to go to it, but the shit's probably already sold out by now.
Yeah. I think US is qualified for that. I think they are.
Yeah, no, they're automatic qualifier. Yeah.
Lucky for them.
Because they're hosts.
Lucky for them.
Yeah, exactly. They'll probably be out first round though.
Okay.
Unless they get a good draw.
Quick thought on NBA. Quick parting shot on the NBA so far. What would you say? Like one or two sentences.
The Mavericks are infuriating and fire Nico.
Fair enough. My thing is, I think Oklahoma City has the potential to be even better than they were last year.
Yeah.
I think that team could win 70 games, especially when J-Dub comes back. Yeah. And number two, Wemby is everything that I could have asked for and a whole lot more.
Yeah. I don't even know what else there is to say about Wemby. Like every night, it's like describing him to a non-basketball fan is like describing like a unicorn or something. It's like I cannot even like I want to try to like sit down and watch a game with my girlfriend who like doesn't really watch basketball at all, just for her to like see like, okay, yeah, like this dude is.
I know
like,
how to describe him.
Like it's nuts. Like you have to sit down and watch this at least
And
once.
I
Like
know how to.
if you're not a basketball fan, if you're just happen to be on this podcast because of football or something, like sit down and watch a Spurs game at some point this season.
Yeah, they're going to be on TV soon. I think they play the Lakers next week. That'll be on national television. They're going to be on national television a lot more.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing I'll say about Wemby that kind of describes him to you. The other night, they're playing Toronto, and you know how like the players, like when they're at the free throw line, they'll kind of like bend over and they'll put their hands on their knees, or when like they're tired, they'll kind of like, you do it all the time. You've probably done it if you played sports before, like
Slouch,
like catching your
kind of
breath.
heavy breathing. Yeah.
He's bent over. He's got his hands on his knees at the free throw line, and like him bent halfway over, and he's still taller than the official. It's crazy. Like this,
oh my God.
the guy makes. I know that sounded kind of weird the way that I phrased that, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right, we've gone on too long, but that was really fun.
That was fun. Yeah. No, I'm glad we did that. Hope you all enjoyed, man. This was a really fun episode. I'm gonna try to get the short form content back going again. We'll see about that. I'm gonna have some time like tomorrow afternoon to try to edit a little bit more. Yeah. Stay tuned for that. We're going to be posting a little bit more on that TikTok page and Instagram, and maybe some YouTube Shorts as well. But yeah, we'll be releasing this. You'll probably be seeing this Friday, and then you'll probably be seeing Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports either Monday or Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Yep. Happy Halloween.
Take us out.
Yep. Peace.
Peace.